So what problems were they having with it?
It was called Sell Like Crazy, and it popularized this idea that only 3% of any given market are looking to buy what you sell.
Your competitors are charging more for basically same services.
But it got to the point where he realized he's spending a lot a month on marketing.
You can't win either way. You either take the work on or you don't take it on and you've got no money and you've got no business.
It's just the way the world turns sometimes, isn't it?
Hello and welcome to the next episode of TED Talks. My name is Edgar, this is Tommy.
Hello.
We are the podcast about the creative and digital businesses, entrepreneurship, and different topics from life.
I've invited someone who, over the last kind of year, has really helped me define where I want to take my agency in terms of growth. He's got absolutely loads of experience. He owned his own agency, and now he's moved into a role with Superfoil as their CMO.
CMO, sounds pretty cool.
CMO. So welcome to Bjorn. Bjorn, introduce yourself.
Thank you. Well, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate being asked on and to share some thoughts and experiences. I've been, up until very recently, about 6 weeks ago, running and growing my own agency, which started from the front room of my house and was just myself on my lonesome, trying to make something happen, growing it up to the point where I had 9 people in the team in total, pretty decent client base, specialized into a certain niche, and experienced a lot of stuff along the way.
Yeah, and obviously we've got a loose framework for the podcast based on kind of what we already know about you.
Well, I don't know anything.
Yeah, well, you're going to find it out. Okay, you've just ruined it now, okay, because you do know a bit about him because we've had this whole brief before. But again, like last episode, don't listen to what we say.
No, but you just put words in his mouth there because he said, I don't know anything. And you said, I don't know anything about Bjorn.
Bjorn. So you said, obviously in the intro there, you touched on that you started an agency from your front room. How did that start? So what were your services when you began?
Well, I thought I had a really good idea. And
I've been there. It's a dangerous place to be.
Yeah.
Bro, that's you every day.
Yeah, it is. Not any good ideas though.
I worked for Boulder Developments, and before I started working for them, I was working on Tesco checkouts and didn't really know what I was looking to do with my life or where I wanted it to go.
What is Tesco checkouts? I don't know.
Tesco is a British supermarket, and the checkout is...
Oh, okay. So it's a cashier.
He was inside it making the noise. So he waited for the window to see the product.
It was not beep. Not a clever question for me, but yeah.
Customers loved it.
Yeah. It was the best beeper in the whole of the East Midlands.
My queues went down the aisle.
Yeah. Used to beep like the tills in Aldi. Beep, 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 beep. Beep boxing.
Do you beep in when you live in Tesco?
Just when I'm reversing.
I couldn't beep fast enough for Aldi. I got rejected from there. So, I was just a lowly Tesco checkout assistant. And I had a friend who was a personal trainer. And he had a couple of clients. And they said, do you know anyone who's good with computers? And he put me in touch with them. And I went for an interview, drove kind of 45 minutes out past Newark on the A1, which is in Lincolnshire. And in my beaten up car, went into this village, drove past the village shop. There were these huge wooden gates and, an intercom on the side. I beeped in, said, hi, it's Bjorn. I'm here.
Still beeping.
Still beeping. I'm here for the interview. The gates kind of ominously swing open. I drive down this track. Suddenly there's this huge house in front of me. There's a cottage on the right. And there's this bunch of offices surrounding a swimming pool with half a gymnasium on the side. And I'm like, what am I getting myself into here? What's going on?
Is it in this town?
No, it's near Newark.
Yeah, well, it's very close.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like a 40-minute drive.
Sounds like Hugh Hefner's house.
Yeah.
It
I would-
was pretty awesome, and I was just wide-eyed. What's going on? And I get out of the car, go in, and kind of introduce myself. And the guys, Will and Craig, father and son. Craig's the father, Will's the son. They say, well, basically, we've just signed up for this piece of software that helps us sell on eBay and Amazon. We're paying £2,000 a month for it, and we don't know how to make it work. So I basically went, let's have a look. And they sat me down at a computer, left me there for 20 minutes, came back, and I said, yeah, I'm sure I can get this working. And they were like, great, when can you start?
So what problems were they having with it? As
It's
in
just
just kind of IT illiterate and just everything.
I wouldn't say IT illiterate, because they'd started an online business. Basically, Craig was building his house, and as he was building it, he was buying, for example, containers full of bricks, and any bricks that were left over, he would sell on eBay or Amazon.
Yeah.
Granite work surfaces and insulation, hence Superfoil. It all came about as part of building his own house, and whatever he didn't use, he sold online. So they did a really good job of getting to a point, but then they kind of got to a barrier where they didn't have the skills to sort of take it any further, or they didn't have the time. If they could spend the time, they could have gained the skills, but they were thinking about bigger things and different things. So I signed up there, and I was there for 2 years. And I remember up until that point, I'd always had a lot of ideas, and nearly launched a couple of businesses actually. But
Any fun examples?
no, they were all crap. But I never launched them because they were never perfect enough. And I think I probably knew they were going to fail, so my pride wouldn't let me go ahead and do it. But the attitude was completely different. It was, no, we're not interested in perfection. If you've got something, get it on the shelf. If it's not on the shelf, you can't sell it. Once it's on the shelf and it sells, that's when you can spend some time and effort making it better and improving it. And I got hit over the head with that stick a lot while working there. And the first day I stepped into the role, Craig said to me, if you see anything in the business that can be improved, let me know. And me being me, I saw a lot of things that could be improved all the time. And the conversation was pretty much always the same. Okay, put a plan together and do it. And it was great. Added a lot of value to that business over the couple of years, and got to the point where I'd automated so much of the stuff and got a lot of the things I was responsible for to a level where I couldn't really take it any further, but I was still deemed as valuable. Me and Will would basically spend all day talking about weightlifting and computer games. I got to a point where it got a bit boring and I wanted to go out and make something happen. I hope this answer's not too kind of long and convoluted, by the way, because I still haven't got to the...
We've got time.
Okay, all right, cool.
The viewers are hooked. They can't wait to see where you went next, nor can we. Alcohol time.
So, that was a great gear shift for me, because it got me thinking about providing value in a different way, pretty rough and ready way, like get it up and get it selling, or see if it sells. Don't think too much about it. Just do it. Don't be too emotionally tied into stuff. Just make it happen.
I think that's stopping a lot of people from doing actual things, because you think that, I will make it better. I should improve this, should improve that. Same, I think a lot of people in video facing this problem, not even in commercial, but when even people create their YouTube channels or some other content, they kind of ashamed to show it because they think it's not good enough and there's still something to improve. But
Here we are.
for most of people, it doesn't matter. And what you see, the other one, even if they will see it, it's fine.
Just on that point, I was talking about that with Tommy on the stairs on the way up. I mentioned that I launched a podcast episode, and Tommy, we were talking about the equipment. I was like, wow, the production quality looks amazing. And I think, given your position, running a videography business, it makes sense to spend some time and effort making it look good, because it's a little bit of an advertisement for your service, really. So I know you said that's not what it's about, and you're probably going to cut me off there. But for someone like me, investing in all of this for a podcast to make
no
it
sense.
It make no sense whatsoever.
But the other side of the coin, that I can't afford make bad quality of something. If I for my content will make something bad, some picture will be not good, or light will be not good, or sound will be not good, which happen sometimes still. It's kind of just showing that I'm not qualified enough.
Yeah, this is your craft, and at the end of the day,
and yeah. So my advice, what I usually give, just start to create content, not really apply to me, not all the time, because for me is the start point is much higher. It's same, for example, if creative agency like you, if you would have bad website, I don't think it's really good thing to have for agency who making websites.
I've got a story about that. We can get to that in a bit if the conversation flows there. But yeah, I guess just looping back, got to the point where I wasn't really doing much on a day-to-day basis, got a bit bored, had an opportunity to move to another business. And, I believe that I had a big impact on Boulder Developments, which is what the overall business is called, while I was there. But then got to a point where the impact wasn't continuing. I came across another business that was at the same stage that Boulder were before I joined them. And I thought, okay, right, let's move over there, see if I can do the same thing again. And if I can, maybe I'm onto something, right? Fast forward, that business was an absolute disaster. I stepped in on the first day and they were like, we've only got one person in the sales office. Do you mind stepping in and covering? I was like, yeah, I'm not shy of getting on the phones and talking to people. 7 months later, I was responsible for the sales of the north of England for the whole company. And I was stressed out. I was target driven. I'm like, this is not what I signed up for. And I went to the dentist one day in the morning. And afterwards, I went home to my wife and I was like, I don't want to go back to work. And she was like, well, just call your boss, tell her you're taking the rest of the day off. And I'm like, no, you do not understand. I don't want to go back to work. She's like, oh, okay, all right. Right, well, what do you want to do instead then? And I was like, I think it's time to start my own business. She's like, all right, well, let's not be too rash. If you want to do that, I'll support it, but let's make a plan first. And that's what we did. Made a plan. While I was working there, I started to build up a few clients on the side. There were quite a few people. It was a furniture wholesale business. So I had quite a few people I sold to that I knew could benefit from the skills I had. So I'd start those conversations with them, and got to the point where I had about £600 a month. No, it was less. It was like £300 a month coming in from little retainers I'd built with people. And I had a little bit of savings, and I worked out that if nothing changed, if I quit tomorrow, I'd have 8 months of runway just to survive. And at that point, I was like, did the old pros and cons list. And I was like, if I don't, also had our first kid on the way. Sorry, I've messed that up. Second kid on the way. We already had our first kid.
Let's not talk about that first one. The good one coming. Version 2, new and improved.
Are you the second child by any chance, Tom?
I'm the third child.
Oh, okay, right. You're the one that got ignored.
No, I'm the one that peaked it all. Could have been more kids if I wasn't amazing.
Peak all the food.
Still peak child.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
No problem. It's a pleasure. But yeah, actually, second baby was on the way. And just figured if I don't do it now, I'll never do it. So I handed my notice in. And yeah, I'd been driving past all of these businesses on the way to work. And the idea was that I'd found a way to make WordPress websites communicate with eBay and Amazon. So you could put all of your stock and your products on an e-commerce shop on WordPress, and then you could feed them out to those different marketplaces and manage it all from your website, which is similar to the software that I signed up for Boulder in the first place. And I thought, God, all of these Lincolnshire businesses, like they need this. They're not selling online yet. It's going to be such an easy sell because, who doesn't want to make money, right? So
Lincolnshire.
Lincolnshire.
It's very offensive to someone.
Sorry for people like me that live in Lincolnshire and like me are from Lincolnshire, but I offended us on behalf of me.
I think everyone that heard it knows there's an element of truth to it, though. I just thought it'd be as simple as calling a few of the business owners up. And
so what year was that?
This would be 2015.
Okay, so it's really early time of the e-commerce, or that
Yeah,
was already very popular.
Not very popular. It was on people's radar, but it felt a little bit unattainable to most businesses. There weren't things like Shopify where you could just easily spin up an e-commerce store. You had to have a little bit of technical knowledge or get an agency to do it for you. And I remember calling the first business up. It was an office furniture company, and I got straight through to the owner. It's like, yes, I thought this was supposed to be difficult. And I said, I introduced myself. I said, hi, I'm Bjorn. I run a company called OSL. We help businesses sell online. And she goes, we don't sell online. And I went, oh, okay, see ya.
That's the first sign, I think, that they have no money. If the boss of the company answer your phone, that's mean they have no stuff.
So I'll stop answering.
That's probably first red flag. These guys have no money. Who is that? CEO answering on the phone.
Yeah, I like answering the phone. It's normally spam though.
Yeah, how much?
Like a lot of spam.
You've got to bear in mind though, at this point, I did actually have this weird image of business owners. I thought there was some kind of like untouchable class of people who were smarter than everyone else, and I'll get to that in a minute as well.
I think they're brave, but smart, not necessary.
Definitely brave. You have to have an element of courage and maybe insanity.
I can vouch for that. I've got it. It's working really well.
What exactly? Insanity?
Yeah, things are moving in the right direction. I think you do have to be kind of different, like different priorities. And I definitely don't envy you taking that decision to, start and grow your business with one kid already and another kid on the way. I think what's been really freeing for me to be able to do it is that if this all came crashing down next month, all of the clients left, and I was kind of left with nothing, it wouldn't really affect anything. Obviously I'd be gutted, and I think that as time moves forward, I'm realizing more and more that my business is a huge part of my own identity and, who I am and who I feel that I am. So if that came crashing down, obviously the only problems in my life would be that, I'd be depressed that it all went, but I don't have any real financial responsibilities. It's not going to take me a lot of time to find any kind of job to cover my bills. I don't have kids to pay for.
You should start scam company.
Scam company.
Yeah, if you have no problem to start over again, just close one, start
Shut
another.
it down, take another loan out.
No responsibility.
Sorry, guys, can't pay.
Okay, if you finish about you, can we continue?
Back to Bjorn.
I mean, you do raise a few good points there, though. And I guess one thing that I left out was one of the reasons I started a business. I'd always felt like my dad was a fisherman. All of his brothers were fishermen. They had their own trawlers and their own crew and everything. One of my uncles was a self-made millionaire through all of that industry.
Yeah, from Grimsby.
From Grimsby, yes.
Yeah.
Which is the fishing capital of the north. It was.
You
anyway.
Don't sound like you're from Grimsby. You sound like you're from Manchester.
I was going to take that as a compliment. Now I'm not so sure.
Like you sound.
What do I sound like?
Really,
just
really
bad.
Definitely like someone from UK.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
Yeah, we're quite miserable here.
Yeah, I don't know. It just, you say the accent different, and I hear often people say, oh, your accent is different. What part of UK you're from? To me, sound really not the same, but really close to each other. All
Yeah.
accents. I just don't understand none of it.
Don't understand
Just
any
doesn't
of it.
understand English.
British English, I would
British
say.
English.
Yeah, well, we'll get to the end of this story at some point. So I feel like I always had that subconscious drive to have a business, but I never had any direction or idea what I was going to do. And while I was working at these two jobs, I started reading books, which just changed the way I looked at everything and the way that I regard how the world works, how I can grow as a person, rather than believing I'm good at this and I'm bad at this, for example. And the thing that really drew me to actually starting my own business was like, even if this first idea doesn't work, I can make something work and I can find a way. And yeah, it turns out that my idea of multi-channel commerce for the great businesses of Lincoln, they weren't ready for it yet. There were a couple here and there that I picked up on, like really low level retainers. I also had this weird belief that no one would pay £1,000 for a website, because my relationship with money was just like never spending any. So I wouldn't believe that. I didn't really understand value yet, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's really difficult.
I would still not pay £1,000 for a website.
Yeah, some of the people we
it's
speak to, I think.
Because I
You're playing chicken with me, with the mic.
It's not because I'm not understanding the value of it, just because I'm poor mostly, but I can't afford.
Okay.
And that's for a business probably a problem, especially at the start, when you have not big income to spend 1,000 or couple thousands on website. Well, you can't probably get website for 1,000 these days. Yeah, it's probably more now.
It really depends, because it's kind of the how long is a piece of string, which people can make you a website for £1,000. Is it going to bring in customers for you?
No.
Is it going to, enhance your brand? Probably not.
Anyway, and it will be a lot of money for a small company for just take out a big piece of cash for turnover.
You're really asking the right questions there, though. At the end of the day, it comes down to value. And well, when I set this business up, thankfully I'd been in contact with Will, because we were good friends while I was working this other job. When I told him that I was setting my own business up and told him what I was doing, thankfully he said, well, we would be interested in that. And I was like, what? Really? They were doing about 1.3 million turnover at the time. And, obviously I'd helped them grow a bunch while I was there, and we had a good deal of trust there. So that was great. I had a hairdresser, built a website for. This hairdresser turned up at my wife's checkout because she worked in Tesco's as well. It was a Tesco love story.
She was beeping as well.
Beep. So, my wife working away on the checkouts, speaking to a hairdresser who just happened to drop the fact that she needed a website for some reason. That's where the conversation went. She went, my husband's just started a business. So I built her a website. She paid me £50 a month to develop it and keep running it. And I'd also get a free haircut every month, which was awesome, by the way. She stayed with me for probably 5 years. That website earned a pretty decent amount of cash.
$3,000.
Wow.
All right, Rain Man.
Is it not difficult? 50 times 12, 600 times 5.
So yeah, picked up a few clients like that, but also had bolder developments. But I mean, it was really slow going. First year, did something like $7,000 in total. Got to the end of it, and I was just like, how on earth have I managed to survive so far? But I got introduced to a guy called Austin Hempstead, who's a sales trainer. Austin got introduced to me. I went to a one-off networking event. Got sat next to a guy who runs an agency. He says, I must introduce you to Austin. Austin drove out from Louth and met me at the Lincoln Hotel, which is opposite Lincoln Cathedral. Really nice spot. Met me for a coffee. I didn't really know why. I I asked, and he said, yeah, sure. And he came out. And have you ever been in a situation where someone's asking you questions and you are just answering with a stream of consciousness? You get to the end of your time and you're like, oh my God, I haven't asked you a single question about what you do or anything like that. Well, that's what it was like. He just sat there and listened and asked question after question. And over the next couple of weeks, he kept just reaching out to me and, oh, there's so-and-so networking event on. Would you like to come along as my guest? There's so-and-so breakfast networking. Come along as my guest. And I'd find out that, he paid for my breakfast, which tenner, I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. What a guy. And then I realized that he didn't even go to any of these networking events. He just took me as a guest. And obviously he'd been to them all before and, he's well known and well respected. But I think he just genuinely did it because he kind of heard where I was at and wanted to help. And I went from basically knowing no businesses in the area to listening to what people were saying and, oh, I need X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, oh, well, I just met so-and-so last week who can do that, putting them in contact. And then suddenly things started to flow back to me when people had kind of had a coffee with me and learned what I was about. And my business started to really take off.
Yeah, I think for me, it was almost exactly the same thing.
The breakfast.
The breakfast. I could see you itching to say that. I don't eat breakfast. I just eat 3 lunches and 5 dinners. But yeah, for me and my business, there was no kind of one person that was pulling me along, but I met 4 or 5 different people that, took an active interest in helping me. And I think that's what really helped when I was doing networking, and you're doing it all the time. So you have all these people when people have a problem, they say, I'm looking for, a sales coach, for instance. And then you're like, oh, well, I know Austin. It really helps because then you're helping people. And then I don't know what it is. I don't know if psychologically the people that you're helping by, passing them to somebody else who can help them, or psychologically the person receiving kind of that referral feels like they might owe you one, not on like a serious level, but just in the back of the mind, where then you're on the radar and you think, actually, who can I pass to Bjorn? But that really helped me, I think, integrate into the local business community because I didn't really know anyone.
It's very, very serious. It's the law of reciprocity. And the more you give to somebody, the more the balance kind of tips in your favor. I've had literally people, well, one person I can think of specifically, it's like, you've given me so much. I'm on a mission to find you something. This is obviously referral based. And that's how powerful it is. Humans are fair creatures by nature. And if you're giving, and somebody's not able to give back, that doesn't sit well with people, to the point where actually it can ruin a relationship. If they're not in a position to ever give back, it just doesn't sit right with people. So in the business world, people are always looking to kind of keep those scales as even as possible. It's a real great human trait.
Yeah, because in my head, I kind of know the people that I'm on the lookout, or I feel that I owe something to. So I think it's kind of a natural thing, because when people have really helped you, then you are on the lookout because you want to, like you say, you want to give back. And I think that, yeah, especially when it comes to networking referrals, they're the kind of easy wins that can make such a huge difference to somebody's business. Because if you give someone just on the off chance, or, speak to Edgar, and then they end up, you have a big project with someone, that can really genuinely change your business and your life. We had a big referral recently from someone. It was just a sort of off the cuff referral. It's not signed yet, but people want to. Well, it will be the biggest retainer that we've ever had, and it's just, how do you repay that? Because if you're doing that, then that takes our business to the next level.
Well, you'll be on a mission to repay it in any way you can, and you can't always guarantee what the value of a referral is going to be. It's a little bit. Imagine you've got a friend who's a multimillionaire movie star, right? If they take you out for a meal, chances are you go into like a Michelin star restaurant or something. They're paying. the expectation to balance that fairness isn't for you to then take them out to a Michelin star restaurant and bankrupt yourself. You take them to a restaurant that's at your level.
McDonald's.
Why is it? It's always about food, isn't it? It always comes back to food.
He's just always rinsing me for being fat.
You're not even that fat.
But you are that grey.
But it hurts, doesn't it? It's a pain point.
Just keep getting off the sofa.
But yeah, where were we? So started to kind of get business from networking and referrals. And the great thing was I had Boulder as a client. I mean, they were paying me £150 a month and I was doing absolutely tons for them, but I was so grateful to be working with them. But I would be able to stand up at networking events and say things like, which is true, by the way. Will said to me, we're doing an average of 175K a month at the moment. We'd like to get it to an average of 200K. What can we do? Came up with a list of 10 things we could do. We did 7 of them within a month. And within a month, they hit 200K. And then they've never been below 200K ever since. So I would get to stand up and say things like that at networking. And that was really like a big, big feather in my cap. Helped people that I was meeting regularly start to think a little bit differently, then reach out and work. But the point we were making about value earlier, right? How much do you pay for a website? I was mainly doing websites back then. That was my thing that I really got started with. What I quickly came to realize was that while I was making all of my websites with this ethos of don't really care too much about the design in terms of making it look pretty, but it has to perform and it has to form a business function. It has to help them get what they want. And often people don't know what they want. They think they want clean design or this or that. What they actually want is inquiries or sales or what have you. And, everything I made, it always had kind of conversion in mind as focus. And, people go, oh, yes, you need a call to action. It's a lot more than that. It's the language you use. It's how you structure your page. It's the hierarchy of information. It's about having a message that actually taps into what people want and helps them hook them in the first place and then build interest. But my point is, you could make exactly the same caliber of website for 2 different companies. They can pay you the same amount, but one company will benefit from the work that you've done a lot more than the other. I don't know what that's the Grimsby coming out. So as a business, which type of company should you go after and try and get more of? Is it the ones who kind of pay you £1,000 and they don't make £1,000 extra in a month? Or is it the ones that pay you £1,000 but make an extra £10,000 a month? It's stupid asking the question like that because it's painfully obvious, right? But that's where value comes into it. And the thing about value is, we were talking about predictability earlier. You can make a video, stick it up on TikTok, and boom, 17,000 views or 50,000 views, 1 million views. The thing is, it's not a valuable service until you can make it predictable so that people know what they're getting when they sign up with you. And that, for me, was half of the battle. It's like, how do I build predictability in this business? How do I make sure that when I convince someone to sign up, they're actually getting a return from it? I don't want to be talking to them in a year's time and them saying, oh yeah, I really like working with you and working with you is great, but we're not really making any money from it. Because at the end of the day, that money is a direct measure of how much value is being passed down the chain. Am I making sense? Or am
Yeah, I think it's just hard to make any promises like that to client.
It's hard.
So to say, yeah, it's big responsibility. If you say that, yeah, order website for me, it will double your profit or double your revenue or something like that. And what if it isn't? Yeah, and you should be really confident when you're saying that and proposing it as a service.
Well, it's difficult. But just because something's hard doesn't mean you shouldn't strive for it. We wouldn't have landed on the moon if we didn't focus on hard things, right?
No, I think you're right. And when it comes to kind of sustainable business growth as well, the clients who, are making the return on investment and really, really benefiting from what you're selling are the ones that are going to help your business keep growing and grow with you and grow. You'll be able to grow your kind of offering to meet their demands. So I think, for us, for instance, the customers who benefit the most when the project's finished always want some kind of retainer. And I don't mean kind of maintenance retainer, but, then we'll look at, if we do a site, we'll be looking at graphic design consistency. Maybe they'll want to go on social media, do social media ads, potentially newsletters and things like that. So yeah, I think that especially for startup businesses, when they're trying to be all things to all people and try and sell absolutely anything as long as someone will keep paying, it's really difficult. And I think you'll kind of lead to unhappy customers. And I think that when you only strive to sell what you know you can really deliver on, it puts you in a completely different place because people are actually valuing it. And then by that, you can charge higher prices and start to grow yourself.
Start to gray yourself. Okay.
Here's a mind bender of a concept for you. If you were to take on 10 clients over the next month,
we'd be dead.
Assuming you could handle it and you could deliver to your normal standard, there's a very real chance that 2 to 3 of those clients will really prosper and do really well from the service you provide, the love you give them, the support. There's 5 or 6 in the middle that will do reasonably well from it. And, if you give them the time and attention, then they'll go so far with it. But then there's 2 to 3 at the bottom end of the spectrum that no matter how hard you try, it just won't work. And the other crazy thing about that is the 2 to 3 at the top that excel with you, yeah, they would actually excel with anybody. It's not about you. It's about their business, their brand, what they've built, their work ethic. There's only so much control you have as an agency over other people's businesses, right?
Yeah, I like how you say that grow with them. Yeah, because I think that's probably one of the part how you can predict. Because if some companies, even with great website, give them the best website what can be, and they just not mess it up, but it won't work for them at all. And
they don't get meaningful results from it. It doesn't help them grow their business.
Kind of like teamwork. So you should work together with client, I guess. And
you should always go into every relationship with the best intentions of doing your best work and helping them get what they want, preferably what you've agreed to deliver on at the beginning. But this is the big caveat: the 2 to 3 at the bottom, who no matter what you do, you'll never be able to help them get what they want. Guess where you spend most of your time?
Yeah, always. They probably pay less than everyone else.
Yep.
Yeah, I have a really good vetting process now. Where if I have
what do you have?
One slight red flag, not interested. So I chat way more to prospects. And my default is I don't want the project all the time. If the phone rings, someone answers that isn't a spam call.
Oh, bro, but that's because you don't want to work. Any project you get, I don't want to work.
Yeah. No,
it's different little.
But no, I think by having that kind of default mentality where you're looking for all the reasons in the world to say no to the project means that when you do say yes, that they're absolutely the right client for you. And if I'm in any doubt in relation to, for instance, if they're haggling over the price, it's probably a no because they don't get, what we're actually going to deliver for them. So we're haggling over the price. And I don't mean, or could you take a few % off or, how about, a couple of £100 off the top? Then maybe. But if it's, can you do it for 30% less? No.
Some shares in the company.
Yeah.
Do you have a situation when you accept project because you was excited about it and you thought that you're going to like it, and then a couple of weeks after you're like, oh no.
Loads.
And
loads.
How you act? Well, you can't say no in the middle of project. I guess that's one of the projects you say that no matter you doing, you can help them.
I think you just do your best to deliver.
And they just take in your time, and then after you just don't want to work with them ever.
What happens in practice, especially when you're a bit green and you're in your first few years, you just wear yourself out trying to make them happy.
I was going to say they're kind of the ones that you learn from, I think, and they're the ones that kind of shape you into what kind of agency you want to be, what kind of business owner you want to be, and what kind of clients you want. And I think for us, I made the mistake multiple times, but there were a couple that I knew it wasn't going to be a great project. I knew it was going to be a nightmare, but we just really needed the money. And I think that as a startup agency, when you really need the cash and someone's dangling just a couple of grand in front of you, where if you take that crappy project, you're going to be able to go a little bit longer and maybe look for that dream client. It's a horrible position because you can't win either way. You either take the work on and you think, I wish I didn't do that, or I really wish I didn't have to take that on, or you don't take it on and you've got no money and you've got no business. And I think that they're the ones we're really, really lucky now that we don't generally need to take any work on because our retainers pretty much cover costs. So in general, I can say no to those. But let's say we had 3, 4, 5 months where we didn't have any big projects coming in, then we could potentially be knocking at the door of taking on one of those. And I really don't want to do that again.
So in overall, when your agency was on your highest performance, how many clients you have? What was revenue, if it's not secret? What the maximum achievement you got?
Maximum revenue was about 37.5 grand a month. Wasn't sustained for very long. Yeah. And that was when we narrowed down into the kitchen, bathroom, bedroom business. Because when
it happened first time, what do you feel?
I don't know. I was happy, but it was also stressful because I was like, how do we keep this going? How do we continue to grow on it? You're trying to balance lots of different things as a business owner. Had a decent team at this point, decent sized team. I wasn't managing them particularly well because I was trying to market, I was trying to sell, I was trying to do the accounting and doing all of these different bits, and I had people to help various things, but there's a lot
of pressure.
A lot of pressure.
So do you have a lot of expenses to run the business at the moment? So it was
not at the moment. No. We've trimmed it right down to the bare minimum. Yeah. But at that point, we had about, I would say 23, 24 grand a month of expenses.
Yeah.
Because I had this vision of, like everyone does when they start a business who's a little bit serious about it, I want a business that runs itself and it's got the right people in the right places. So we'd take on clients, take on retainers, and I'd hire a new person.
Yeah.
And I'd hire a new person. And what you realize is, you can grow quite quickly like that, but it doesn't take many bad months for you to have no reserves left.
Yeah.
Because they just eat away. And you build a really close relationship with the people you work for, people-wise. I love 99% of the people that I've had in the business. And, I had to let some of them go, which was like heartbreaking. There were tears involved, tears from me. They were all really understanding because they could see what was going on and they could see the difficulty I was going through. But it was like, you've got to do what's right for the business. You've got to do the best thing for the business.
Yeah, I think it's not something I've really had to do with, obviously. We predominantly run a freelance model. So there's kind of no commitment guaranteed, when we're taking people on. But then even with part-time staff, it's not something I've really had to deal with. But I think that obviously as a business owner, you'll grow close to your staff. But I'm just trying to put you at ease, really, is, when they sign with you, they're not offering like a lifelong commitment. And it's kind of true the other way, that, if finances aren't right, they're going to have to go. And I think that that's obviously why they understood.
Oh God,
feel good about yourself. You owe them nothing, Bjorn.
I mean,
Nothing.
I felt like by letting them go, I was destroying lives almost because, you know, I'd felt responsible for these people.
Do you think you actually destroyed someone's life?
No.
Yeah,
I mean,
you like to think so.
I'm trying to make him feel better.
No, is Ed making out like I'm some kind of megalomaniac? Like, you know,
No,
I've got your existence in the palm of my hand, and I can crush it if I want to.
No, I mean not in this way, but you know, you remember someone after a couple years, and you think like that was, well, I probably really screwed up his life at that point. Not in the way you want to do it, but you have to.
That's kind of where my head was at the time
Yeah.
when I've let people go, and you know, I still whenever it happens, it gets a little bit easier, but it's still like it really tugs at my very core, like it hits me really hard. And but what I've come to realize is it's essentially a relationship with people, right? When you take them on, and the better you get at explaining what the rules of the game are and what the expectations are, and holding people accountable to that, the easier all of the decision making along the way is. But when I started this company, it was really important to me because I'd had a lot of crap jobs in my time. Yeah, a lot of really bad jobs where I'd been treated terribly. And it was a big vision of mine to create a business that people want to work for, and where where they're valued, and where they're like almost a family. And it sounds a bit cheesy. But what that does is actually it makes it really hard to make business decisions. It gets in the way. So what I've found from experience is that you can still have that kind of that vibe and that kind of culture as long as the boundaries are properly in place. It's really important. It's really hard to do. And then on top of that, you've got to dedicate enough time to actually lead people, which when you're a business owner, there's always fires to put out and things that are dragging you away. And I had this team of 9 people who were all great people, really smart, loved the business. I think all of them, except for maybe one, like, this is the best job I've ever had. But I wasn't, the way the relationship was, all of them, I would say, got to a glass ceiling in terms of growth. And I wasn't able or equipped to take them beyond that. So everything stagnated a little bit. And then, you know, you lose a client here or there, and your mental health starts to alter. And, you know, basically your business is kind of an extension of you, and it almost feels what you feel. And I would say every single person that's worked for me who's gone on to something else, that glass ceiling that we got to has been their baseline that they've stepped into in their new role. And, you know, thank you to any of the local businesses who've hired these great people. I've seen some of them are absolutely flying at the moment, and it genuinely makes me really happy to see it. And it's kind of nice to know that I played a part in their life and helped that happen. Also makes it a little bit less emotionally impactful when you get to a situation with somebody and it's not working out. It's not. It's a bit like those 2 or 3 clients that you can't help. It's not that they're bad people or bad clients. It's just that there's something that doesn't add up with that relationship.
Is here.
Yeah, the match just isn't there.
And I guess when part of your team, they're really involved in your business and they know what's going on with clients, what's going on with finances, and your work as a team, work together on the projects, they kind of understand before that something is going wrong.
Definitely.
Yes.
Small businesses.
Yeah, with small businesses there, and they understand that just, I'm gonna be fired soon. Not fired, but they're gonna have to let me go because in a couple more months we have no clients. We don't do any work. Probably that's first sign for them because there's no work and they get into work and there's nothing to do.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, there was always plenty to do, but that's another big business lesson. Just because you're busy doing work doesn't mean it's paying the bills, right? For example, while running this business, I got to a point, and this is going back into the life story, the timeline. I really needed developers, but I hadn't built any relationships with any of the tech people in Lincoln. So like, where do I even begin to look? But I found out on the grapevine that there was a business for sale, an agency for sale, and they had like 4 developers on the books. So obviously Will was a client from Boulder Developments. We would speak about all things, not just like do this job for me. We were still talking about weightlifting and video games and stuff at the time. I told him about this, and he's like, "Oh, we'll help you buy that." And I was like, "What?" Yeah,
Which
that sounds
help you, like financially.
financially.
Okay.
And I was just like, seriously, it's like up for sale for like 50 grand or something,
Okay.
which to me was like mega money. Yeah, we like working with you. I think it'd be good to kind of forge ties a little bit closer. You're doing good work for us. Yeah, let's look into it. So we did all of the due diligence, and we went through the process, got right to the end. We came in late. They already had a buyer in mind, but the guy who was selling it, he actually liked our offer better. But right at the last minute, I think his team and his other business partner said, "Let's stop messing about. Let's just go with the original offer." And well, we were kind of left with nothing there, but except for the idea that working together a bit closer would be really cool. And at the time, Boulder Developments or Superfoil, they were outsourcing their advertising to a company. They were outsourcing their PR to another company, and a few other bits. He said, "Well, we still like the idea of working together." And they were just about to buy this £1.5 million building, which is the old Co-op distribution warehouse in Lincoln. And they basically said, I think there's still a deal to be made here. So we basically took on all of their marketing, which was about 4 or 5 grand a month, mega retainer at the time, and got some free office space, got to work closely with Will. He was my business partner, similar ages, a few years younger, but he's been very business focused from a very, very early age. And right from the second that decision was made, it was absolutely amazing. Couldn't wish for a better business partner, always there as a kind of arbiter of fairness, or to give me a bit of advice or an opinion based on what was going on and what was happening. And we took care of all of their marketing. This is where we really started to grow the team, because I'm jumping about a bit here, but you know what we said about websites? You can make 2 websites for 2 different companies and the value they get is different. Also, you can make the best website in the world for somebody. If they don't have a marketing plan, it's worthless.
Yeah. Same with video.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can give best commercial video, expensive one for company who don't know what to do with it. They will put it on their website and that's it. And then say that video is not working.
So if we want to promise results, right, we have to take responsibility for a larger spectrum of the responsibilities that take. So, we would provide social media advertising, to a small extent, Google Ads. We did CRM systems so that people could go into, pipelines and funnels, and there'd be email automation backing things up. And we came up with this idea for what we call the digital growth plan, which was where I really started to enjoy the business, because we were productizing our service. We were turning all of these different disciplines into one thing that somebody could understand and buy. And you get these features with it, which provide you with so-and-so benefits. And it was all based on the system that we were building for Superfoil. And off the back of what we were doing for Superfoil, they were growing internal sales teams to deal with the volume of inquiries they were getting from all of the different marketing channels. It was all funneled through the website. And, we had a few really good hits with clients that we took on this digital growth program. But the problem was we were charging £1,500 a month for it, for all of these services. It would take us 3 months to run through discovery, design, and development. Then they would start advertising. And that's where we would start to learn the lesson of whether it was going to work for them or not. Because until you put it on the shelf, you don't know if it's going to sell or not. When I was selling it, I would tell people to give themselves a 6-month window to see if it's going to work. Okay. And that's where a lot of the frustration came in. So there's a 4.5 grand upfront cost just to get things running. And then there's the ongoing management plus ad spend on top of it. Plus, they had to sign up for a CRM system, which would be another £100 a month or something. And they're just going, God, the cost is off the scale. It's crazy. Done well, they would earn a fortune from it. If it didn't work, if it didn't click with the market, then they had something that looked great and was really fancy, but wasn't pulling the value in. So we came across a client who they were local. This is during COVID, actually. And they saw one of our adverts because we thought, if we're going to do well, we need to practice what we preach. We're going to run our own adverts to attract our own clients, which most agencies don't do, which I think is, most advertising agencies don't actually do it, which I think is quite telling. Bit of a red flag for me. But they said, we've just seen your advert and we've realized that you're local. We were advertising nationally at this point, right? And they sold bathrooms in Lincoln. And they just had one of those grants that was going about, so a bit of free money. They were like, we've known we need to do this for a while. We don't want to just do it with some company in London that we can't go and see. Timing's just right. Let's do it.
So was it?
They were called Style. Well, they are called Style. Style Bathrooms and Kitchen Specialists.
Where are they based?
Burton Road. Up near the cathedral in Lincoln. And so we 3 months, put the funnel together for them, launched the ad campaign, flew. Went really well. In the first year with us, they went from never being able to earn more than £300,000 for, I would say, 2 or 3 years in a row. They'd never been able to break that mark, to doing over $1 million in the first year.
Yeah, I think kitchens and bathrooms kind of one of those things that suits a funnel, though, isn't it? Because of the obviously initial appointment, and then let's go through to let's plan it out. Okay, are we going for it?
Absolutely, really, really does. And when that happened, when we were going through it, I was like, this is it. This is what I want to focus on. First of all, like, who doesn't love a good kitchen in a house? It's like the heart of a home, right? It's where the parties happen, when you get everyone over.
It's my man cave.
Your kitchen is your man cave.
No,
There's a food joke here.
That's where the magic happens. I have a sim racing.
You mean
simulator.
food, yeah? On kitchen. That's where magic happen.
You two carry on.
Sorry, Tommy.
Is before we continue to how you start with kitchens and bathrooms, do you think is any product can you build funnel for any product, or some of the product perform different, or for some services or things you can't make it at all?
I think every product or service, if you're going to advertise it online, should have a funnel. And it's all about taking as much responsibility for the whole customer journey as possible. There was a really good book came out that it was called Sell Like Crazy. And it popularized this idea that only 3% of any given market are looking to buy what you sell right now. And yet, what is most people's advertising message? Buy what I've got to sell. They just go straight for the end piece, and they ignore the journey where people go from ignorance to knowing about you, to being aware. And the magic is when you can take people on that whole journey and support them through it all and build that value with them. We spoke about reciprocity earlier on. It's exactly the same thing, just digitized. And when it's digitized, it means you can scale it, right? The problem is finding all of the right messages along the way and the right content to provide to people, and for it to be worth it. How deep do you go with the funnel? Is it a £25 product? Is it a £2,500 product? Is it a 25 grand product? Is it a 250 grand product? You just need to make sure that you're getting that return on the money that you're spending. And yeah, it's possible for anything out there. Mm-hmm. Even if you read a book nowadays, there's a bloody funnel attached to it.
What do you mean?
If you read any personal development book, there'll be, here's a diagram. Go onto my website. You can download it for free.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Now suddenly you're being sold masterclasses, coaching, all sorts of things.
Subscribe for email, something to get some free thing, and then they're messaging you and telling you everything.
Exactly. And it's great because they're putting their best foot forward to kind of put as much value out into the world as possible. And the more you can give with the laws of the universe, the more you'll get, right? But there's also the term, have you ever heard marketers ruin everything?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard that, Tommy?
No, it's reminding me of something.
He was one who ruined
everything.
Yeah.
Just the podcast.
And keep doing.
There was some video that Laura showed me, actually. Some like American comedian just screaming at marketers.
Yeah, the reason marketers ruin everything is because as soon as something works, everyone jumps on it and they rinse it until everyone is sick and tired of it. So that's why marketers ruin everything. But there's certain things, like you can't ruin giving value. But what does happen is people build up such a resistance to being open to those messages because everyone's trying to hook them in with either clickbait or something that's too good to be true, that like a normal honest offer, it just flies under the radar.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of artistry to it and there's a lot of difficulty. But when you crack it, if you've got a funnel, your business will fly.
Can I ask about, so what's happened in kind of the last 6 months with Oracell and where you're working now?
Well, we're not, I'm sorry, we're not finished, but transition to kitchens and bathrooms.
So we worked with this bathroom client. We thought we were onto something here. And we built our own funnel and our own advertising campaigns specifically for kitchen, bathroom, bedroom companies. And we started advertising it. And every sales conversation I was having was with one of these companies, right? And this was under the Oracell brand. And they would say things like, oh, you talk to businesses like me all the time, don't you? And I'd be like, yeah, I do. And they'd say a problem to me. And I'd say, oh, I was actually just speaking to someone last week with exactly the same problem. All of your conversations, when you niche, they all add into extra value for the next conversation you're going to have, and it becomes really powerful. After we picked up a few more clients, we launched the brand Design, Supply, Fit, and that brand was built purely around the KBB businesses. So now not only did they feel like we worked with people, it also looked like we did as well. And that's where things really started to fly. And, you know, we were acquiring clients left, right, and center from our online ads. And some of them would fly and do amazingly. Some of them would kind of middle and do okay. Some of them would just bomb and die in a fire, and we didn't know why. But, you know, these are the hard lessons in business you learn. But generally, the business was growing and doing really well. And I loved it. I was getting into the industry, forging ties left, right, and center, started a podcast, which, you know, we launched a really good first episode for. Second episode didn't get off the ground because I needed to edit too much of it out, and I don't have any editing skills. So
neither does Edgar, but we make this work. 1-0. Sorry, Bjorn.
But yeah, you know, I
will cut this joke out.
Don't cut it out.
It was all growing. And the other thing is, you know, I mentioned that 3-month lead time to get someone set up. Well, based on the technology that we adopted, we could sign someone up, and to start with, we could launch in 5 days because we didn't need to recreate all of the offers. We didn't need to recreate all of the materials. It was just changing some colors, changing some branding, changing some photographs. But the message and the offer and the follow-up all stayed largely the same. So we had this really productized service, and no negotiating on price. This is the price. We know it's worth it. If you sign up, you are literally going to get leads tomorrow. As soon as we flick your ad campaigns on, those leads are going to start coming in. Then our salespeople, we started a mini call center. There were 2 people. They would call. Well, to start with, it was one person. Shout out to Dan Hutchinson if he's listening.
Kind of like your call center, yeah.
Just, you know, most of the time I swear when the phone rings because I always think it's spam, and then it puts me in a negative frame of mind for the good conversations. I like Dan Hutchinson.
Yeah, he's a great guy, and we went through a lot together. Trying to find scripts and things to say that actually work and make sense, but you don't sound like a robot delivering. How do you pitch the offer properly? We went through all of these like mini little sales battles through a lot of people to kind of perfect it and get it right. But also in terms of, he would be on the phone selling kitchen, bathroom, and bedroom appointments on behalf of our clients. So we had this system where we would launch ads for them. They would get leads in. We'd maybe offer a free guide on how to achieve your dream kitchen or something like that. He would call them up and say, hi, it's Dan from Callerton Kitchens. Thank you for downloading the guide. First of all, did you get it? Yeah, got it. What was it that motivated you to download the guide? Oh, well, we're looking at getting our kitchen done. That's interesting. Tell me more about that. And then he would book them on an appointment. They would turn up at the showroom, or someone would come out and survey their property. And then it was over to them, right? So you see how we really took as much responsibility for getting them that result as we possibly could with this system. It was great. I loved it. I felt like I'd transitioned from guy running a business out of the front room of his house to having something that's an actual business. It's brilliant. But I think there were other problems. Don't get me wrong. The economy and everything going on in this country going the way it has, it's made it harder and harder and harder for people to actually sell these luxury products. And that industry is in a big decline at the moment. People are struggling to release equity from their mortgages, to get mortgages in the first place, to get loans or finance. And, I had 5 clients quit in 1 month. Each of them were paying $2,000 a month. They were like, we're still getting appointments, but people are not laying down deposits to start their project. We just can't afford to keep this going. And yeah, when those struggles start to happen and you're laying people off because you can't afford to keep them, and you're doing more and more of the work, you're less and less able to grow your business. And then all of that's doing a number on your central nervous system. You're showing up to work every day and your brain's going, right, let's go. But your body's going, nah, I've had enough. This is not going the way I want it. That's kind of where things got to on that front.
I think that it's really hard position for medium-sized companies who not really big yet, but they already have big running costs and they counted on retainers. And when situations like that happen and people just stop buying or hard times, they can be written off for in couple months because their expenses just eat them out really fast. And in compare with this really small businesses, well, like me, I don't really have much running costs. I can spend half year without any work income and still exist. Well, it sounds sad, but it is what it is. And then what worse can happen? I would go from office to home and still can do my services, still run a business, still work with freelancers, and can survive more than bigger production companies.
Definitely. But, what do you want your life to look like in a year's time or 5 years
of
time
course,
or
it's
10 years time?
temporary. Yeah, but it's just coincident that happened now. And I hear that some of the video productions have to close because they can't run their office. They can't hold
I
their
see.
staff. And at this moment, I was like, okay, because I still have work. I still get paid for everything, and my low running costs help me in this situation. And I'm kind of happy that I not grow up too fast at this moment. So I can
It's fortunate.
Yeah.
It's that luck that we were talking about earlier.
sit on a fence and watch what's happening.
I mean, it could be different. The economy could be absolutely booming and all of your competitors are growing like crazy. And you're like, well, I've got no running costs. I'm quite happy making £500 a month. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just the way the world turns sometimes, isn't it?
Just to sort of piggyback off that, I think, I've seen it with general creative agencies as well, a lot struggling. And, I'm like Edgar, we're quite lean, so it doesn't really concern me in a way. But as we do progress more, so my future plans for the business are to be less lean so that I can help grow it more. So my sort of next task is kind of what I was speaking to you about a few months ago, Bjorn, which is taking on just now I think a full-time designer who I can offload all my stuff onto. But not necessarily how, but what tips do you have for kind of mitigating risk as you grow a business from your experience? Like, what have you learned where, if it does kind of take a wobble and things start going south, you could be in a much better position? What have you learned? What advice can you specifically give me?
I think if you are running a business and you've got your aspirations set on growth, then you've got two choices. You can either play it small or you can play it big. Running a business is very, very stressful. There's no two ways about it. I don't know a single business owner that isn't stressed as balls. They all put a brave face on it, but when they go home and they have their dinner with their family or not with their family, they're looking at their phone, they're checking every email that comes in. When they're on holiday, they're having calls, they're checking their emails, they're checking Xero to see what their accounting's looking like. It's a constant 24/7 thing. And there's a real beauty to that. But why bother if you're only going to grow it to the point where you could actually have a nice job where you turn up, have an impact, provide value. You can go home, switch off. Essentially, you've got the same amount of time during the day as any other person, any other business owner. Why set your sights to here when you could just as easily put the same amount of effort in and just think a little bit bigger? And an example of that, we made this business deal with Will in Boulder, right? Between four and $5,000 a month, free office space, we got to grow a team off it. Well, when we focused on the kitchen, bathroom, bedroom side, we cut that retainer down. And it was fine. We'd been on that a couple of years. I'd got great value from that, and it allowed me to achieve a lot of things. But they went to talk to another couple of agencies. And there were two agencies in the running. One quoted them $12,500, and the other quoted them $22,000 for all of the service a month for the services that they wanted. Yeah. And yes, they were doing a fair bit more than we were. There's videography in there, for example. Each offer was different. They were right on the verge of going with a $22,000 a month offer. And here's me thinking, we were doing loads for 4.5, 5, or whatever, somewhere between 4 and 5. I can't quite remember at the moment. What was stopping me from providing $20,000 a month worth of service? That business would have got value from it.
So you were selling expensive thing for cheap.
Yeah, really. It's worth thinking about, isn't it?
Yeah, pricing's a really difficult thing, I think.
How do you...
So
you need to cover your costs, right?
Yeah.
You need to make a profit. There's some businesses out there that will benefit from what you do to a level where that happens. There's others that will benefit from it wildly more.
So I have a question with this. So their offer, what was twice more expensive, is the cost to make it was bigger than what you was offering?
I would guess that their costs for that $22,000 a month probably be under 10.
Okay. And from what you was offering?
Our costs were probably about, I would say 3 to 3.5.
Okay.
Yeah. So all of that work, all of that benefit they were getting,
yeah,
and we were clearing, 1 to 2K in terms of profit, which it's not bad, that would have blown my mind when I first, well,
Yeah.
it definitely would have blown my mind when I first started the business. But the only thing that changed was my experience and my perception. Value's a tricky thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you need to add some extra services to make it more expensive, or you can just sell it more expensive and keep your costs?
do you know of any video production companies that charge more for what they do, but actually deliver the same services on paper that you do?
Yeah.
So what's stopping you?
Yeah, I have no reputation, no trust from people. I don't know at the moment.
At the moment?
Yeah.
But is that more of a problem for you or more of a problem for them?
Well, I guess they missing out the opportunity to have something would cost much more now, and then when they will want it, it won't be available.
Yeah. You have to build a track record. It's really important. That builds trust.
Because my background, I have the bigger video production before another country, so here I start over. So with zero reputation, with high prices from before in mind,
Yeah.
and the way I'm doing it, and I was telling people straight this price and this amount of services.
Okay. So if I'm assuming that you're offering your services at a low price at the moment,
Yeah.
what kind of reputation are you going to build?
I'm doing services equal to prices I'm offer.
Are you dodging the question?
No,
Yeah.
I'm not providing because it's hard. So, for example, to make the commercial would cost 20,000 grand, what I was doing before.
Mhm.
I need actually roughly 10, at minimum 10 of my own money to make the project, to hire the people. So I can't afford that at the moment. So I can't sell the project for 20,000 because I won't be able to make it. So I have to cut some services I'm doing.
If you let's say you did sell it, would you be able to deliver it?
Not sure. I don't really believe I can because I have to go. Well, I will have to loan money, for example. Well, that's what I was doing before. But there's a difference when you have your network and a lot of people you know and like credit history, and you can actually find way to find money to deliver project or resources or ask someone to, so okay, can I pay before, after a couple months? And yeah, now I can't do it.
Okay. But if you could overcome that capital
Yeah,
issue,
yeah,
you'd 100% be able to
yeah,
do it.
yeah.
I think you could do it.
I was going to ask you.
Before.
I was going to say, trash talk aside, what do you think?
Yeah. Well, it's really easy, isn't it? If well, let's say for us, for instance, if we're working on someone's website for, I don't know, a month, and that's going to cost us $4,000, then pay us $4,000 now, and then the rest when it's finished. It was just payment terms. I don't think, to be honest, I know you're thinking that obviously it's so simple, but if your default is no, it's difficult to kind of realize that, but that's what payment terms do, enable you to do it. And I think that as a really small business, if a customer won't understand that, thinks actually, no, I'm going to pay for it all at the end, then you just say, well, no. I think payment terms are something that, generally I've struggled with. One of my clients, when I started working with them, they're an engineering company. We were kind of struggling for cash when we started working together, probably about 1.5 years ago. And they said our payment terms are 60 days from when it's finished. And I was thinking, well, that's going to be like 4 months. And I was like, okay, I really need the money. And then I rang the guy up halfway through and I was like, I need this money now. But I think it's an easier conversation to have when you kind of have that relationship there. But I don't think people expect you to do work with no money up front.
Okay.
From it.
All right. So
yeah, it's possible. I know what you mean. Yeah, it's possible. I'm not brave enough to do it yet because I not know the infrastructure of film industry in here enough to do it.
I love the fact that you added the word yet to
Yeah.
the end of that sentence. Ultimately it does come down to confidence and mindset. There's nothing about the film industry here that you couldn't learn and that you won't learn. but try not to use that word too much, because they say anything that comes before the word but is essentially useless, right?
Yeah.
Say yes and.
But then you're still doing the same thing, right?
Yes. And the reason that you're doing that is, see,
Well, that was
yes
smooth.
and.
That was smooth.
Yeah, so that's tricky. That's tricky. So
Yeah.
how would it help you? So you realize that your competitors was charging more for basically same services, slightly including more of services, but
Well, what happened was, obviously Will signed up to one of those, and it was the lower tier one. I'm sure he wouldn't mind me sharing the numbers or the facts on this. And they're doing decent. They had a great plan set up. They're delivering what they said they were going to deliver. But as with all things agency, it's not the same thing as the company delivering it from inside. You can only probably ever get to 75 or 80% as personal by being an outside agency and kind of masquerading, right? But it got to the point where he realized he's spending a lot a month on marketing. And, in total, it's a lot more than that amount. Getting great results from it. But it's like, it's time that we start to bring all of these services in-house. And I got one of those kind of ominous messages on Facebook where you're like, from Will, when someone asks you a question, you're like, why are they asking me this question? What's going on here? And he said, why are you in business? It's like, what's important to you about business? And no, it's genuinely not money for me. Part of it was I didn't have a direction or a purpose, and kind of self-funded an education, right? I wanted to have an impact. I wanted for my ideas to matter and to benefit people. And I wanted to be rewarded in proportion with that. And to a large extent, really achieved that. But the impact was the main thing. I want to go in somewhere, have an impact, and be able to say, I've done that. That's what's really important to me. And I mean that genuinely. The money is a side product, that comes afterwards, hopefully. It's supposed to.
We'll see.
We'll see. But throughout the course of this conversation, he said, is the money important to you? And I was like, I don't really need that much to be happy, to be fair. And he said, well, what if you could have all of that, but working for Superfoil? And I didn't say no straight away. Interesting. Let me have a think about it. And then we met up frequently talking about it. The idea took root and ended up making such a good deal that I'd have been an idiot to say no to it. I get to grow a team from scratch in the Superfoil business, which presents its own challenges. But I also get to use that team, because don't forget, Will is a 40% partner in my business, to fulfill client work for the clients that we have kept on board and retained. So I was like, well, it's famous Charlie Munger quote. It's not necessarily how hard you row, but which boat you're on that's most important. Do you want to be in a boat that's you're constantly rowing against the tide and everything's difficult, and for every unit of sweat that you put into it, you get 1 unit of value back? Or do you want to be in a boat that sails up, going with the wind, with the tide, and for every unit of effort you put in, you get 5 back or 10 back?
I want to be on a boat with a restaurant. Cruise ship. I love cruises.
do I tell that I get to this country on a boat?
Oh, you've said it in 3 episodes. It wasn't an illegal boat. They know he's here. That was the episode 4, Katrina Pierce. But yeah, I think you're right. And obviously they came to you with obviously an offer that worked. So how's that going? Where are you at now?
Well, the other thing that really appealed to me about the offer, and this is probably the biggest thing,
stacks of money.
Well, they just achieved their first 10 million year,
right,
in revenue, and they've got their sights on 100, and they're in an industry where that's possible.
Yeah.
Multifoil, this is going to be really boring for any of the listeners. I'm sorry in advance. But the multifoil, superfoil is a multifoil insulation, which is not very known about here. And multifoil insulation accounts for less than 1% of sales in the overall insulation market.
Kingspan are not going to be happy.
We're coming for them.
You're coming for Kingspan.
That's the old way. We're the new way. So what I'm really excited about is being a big part of this journey from 10 million to 100 million. You know, what impact can I have? How can I make that happen? And, you know, in one of the first senior leadership team meetings, I didn't know if I was being a douche or not. Probably was.
Probably.
But it's like, right.
You know that
to get
feeling,
roasted now.
Looking to the future, you know, Will was saying, you know, when are we going to hit this 100 million target? When are we going to write down and say we're going to do this? 10 years? And everyone was like, ooh, not sure about that. But I've seen their journey from how they started. And, you know, a lot of these guys have been with the company for a long time and the whole way. And I said, well, you guys had the same reaction when you were doing 2 million and, you know, the target was set at 6. You weren't quite sure whether it was going to happen. And lo and behold, it happened. It happened quicker than expected. And then you weren't sure about 10. That happened, and that happened quicker than expected. So, like, why 10 years? Why not 5? Why can't we do it in 5? And, you know, like I said,
That's
wasn't what
where stress and anxiety coming from. Why 10 years? Let's do it in 5.
Yeah.
Come on, team.
Yeah.
But just asking the question, right, held a lot of value. And like I said, I wasn't sure if I was being a douche or, you know, didn't know what I didn't know. But Chris from production said, well, actually, we're going to need 3 machines. We've got 1 machine at the moment, and that took us 2 years to produce. So that's going to take time and investment to get up to speed. Then we're going to need certain capital allocation to make things happen at certain times. But what we settled on was 8 years. We took it down from 10 to 8 and drew everything out so that actually it's a very, very reasonable target in line with the growth that they are currently experiencing with what they're doing, right? But the thing I'm excited about is we're doing a hell of a lot more on top of what they're already doing. And they're growing their sales team, they've grown their marketing budget. There's all of these compounding effects going into place. And I feel like we're just going to, well, the growth is going to be insane. And I'm assembling a crack team at the moment, taking on some.
You already say we.
Did I say we? Yes.
Part of the team.
Yeah. And literally 2 weeks ago, someone called me out for saying like them. They're like, oh, it's interesting. Why do you say them? And I'm like, obviously took root.
So
I'm a part of the team. Yay.
2 questions.
Yeah.
Who have the better deal, them or you?
I think they did. They've got the better deal.
Okay.
But I am very, very happy with what I've got. And, you know, even, I mean, while all of this nonsense was going on, the house we've been living in for 11 years, the landlord decided they were going to evict us because they wanted to sell, presumably because of what's going on in the property market. They probably had to remortgage and they were losing money on our rent. So we had a 2.5 month battle to try and find another property, which was just honestly insane. Like 50 to 60 people applying for every single rental property we were going for. It was bananas, so stressful as well. I thought I would just be able to take it in my stride and deal with it because nothing really phases me that much. But wife and 2 kids, eviction date, not going to have a roof over our head. That made just waking up in the morning difficult, let alone all of the business troubles that were going on. So, you know, the deal made a lot of sense. And I think for the next year or 2, I'm going to be able to have a great impact, build a great team, let my central nervous system recover from the massive burnout I've put it through for the last sort of 8 years. And I think it's going to be a really nice way of living. And if we do achieve these growth targets, I'm going to be very fairly compensated for that.
Yeah, I was going to say, is there incentive for you to push them on or?
There is, yeah. And I said to Will while we're having these discussions, what happens if in a year or 2 years I get itchy feet and I want to start my own business again? He said, well, I'm not planning on running this business forever. We want to grow it and sell it. So, that we've floated the idea of starting another business further down the line. And as part of my personal story, who wouldn't feel proud of being part of a business's journey, taking them from, not single-handedly carrying them on my back, being a part of that journey from 10 to 100 million, whether I decide to go further down the kind of career route or whether I go back into business, probably won't be an agency. It's a great part of the story, right?
Yeah, I think so. It gives you a lot of options.
Yeah.
Everything from general C-suite exec in bigger companies or different companies, all the way through to, consultant.
Would you go to work, and for how much? How much you will cost?
Can I butt in quickly there?
Yeah.
Because you mentioned something about owning a business being a big part of your identity. That was me. I would always say to people that, oh, what do you do? Oh, I own a small agency. And actually, it's pretty decent size, especially at some points in terms of either headcount or the revenue we were bringing in. We're doing pretty good, right? On the grant, it's not often you see an agency get above that 100K a month mark. Well, we made it to just over a third of that. Something to really be proud of. But I'd always downplay it. But inside, I'd feel great about being a business owner and having my own thing and making it happen through grit and determination, blood, sweat, and tears, and the magnitude of problems you come across that, the buck stops with you. That was the most difficult thing for me to contemplate, like not having that to kind of feed my ego, and keeping the business running on the side was really appealing to me. And I would not have jumped if I couldn't have carried on supporting the clients that I've got. But the difficult thing is now I'm, in a way, getting the worst of both worlds.
Yeah.
Because I've got the security of, the perceived security of having a job, and 5:30 comes. Technically, I can drop everything and not worry about it. I don't. I tend to carry on working because we're gluttons for punishment after this long working with multiple bosses, aka clients. But then I've also got the ongoing stuff, the email checking and the working late into the night to make sure that the clients are all serviced and happy, because, yeah. So I didn't mean to kind of like railroad your question there, but that ego element of I run my own business, it can be your biggest friend or your worst enemy in many ways. And I think it's important to just focus on the outcomes that you're looking to achieve. And if something's working for you, keep doing it. If it's not, the Americans are great at this. If it's not, they're like, well, that didn't work. What's the next thing?
Yeah, I think it's good advice. So just if it's not working, just stop.
Yeah, I don't know. Don't know the answer to your question.
Easier said than done, that though, isn't it?
I think I'd want a fair amount. If at the minute, for instance, if someone said, close your agency down, we'll give you £50,000 a year. No.
I would go for 100 a year, but I don't know how many years I would stay working. That will be the other question. 5 years? What after? It will help at short period of time, but then as soon as financial situation will change in way that I have savings for a year, for example, have a house or something like that, then I would start, okay, what to do next?
Yep.
How to get myself in trouble.
And what you've got is you've almost got a business within a business, because you're running the in-house marketing team. You've got to grow the in-house marketing team to grow the stats. So you've got that crazy responsibility. The buck stops with you. You can kind of define how the team will look. You set the vision and you get there. So you are running a business.
Definitely scratches
the business within the business you're running the inception foil. There we go.
It definitely scratches the same itch. One thing that it's taught me massively is that I wasn't leading my team anywhere near enough when it was my own business. And because my time's a lot freer when I'm working in my job hours, I can spend so much more time making sure that people are on task, doing the right things, that they're supported in the right way, that they're, first thing I did with everybody was set up 1 year goals, and then 3 months, 1 year plan, 3 month goals, and then, right, what are we focusing on this month? And it's taken a lot of effort and time to get people in the team to think about, well, what do I want to achieve in a year? It's not really a normal way of thinking for most people as business owners. Somewhat, I would say half business owners probably say they do it, but maybe 10-15% actually do it. But we've got this alignment in place now where they know what they're doing, they know what they're shooting for, and they know that plans will probably change as they go on. They've got that kind of 3 month, this is our target for the quarter, these are the things we've got to do. And then they're getting the daily support to do it. I'm spending a lot of time and effort with them and really seeing massive results from it. And it makes me cringe so hard when I look back on the team the people I've had in the business. If I would have had those tools and that knowledge at that time and the spare time and energy to give them, God, what could we have achieved?
So is the biggest tip there, for people who have their own teams, then just to set goals for their employees and continuously kind of, drag them into thinking, progression.
At a basic level, yes.
So what sort of obviously it's not a quick step to foresee that, but what kind of quick things do you think business owners could do to put something like that, or think about putting something like that in place?
Hire Andy Nisevich, who's a leadership trainer.
Right.
That's a quick fix.
Where's he from?
Well, a good question.
From the LinkedIn.
He's a Lincoln guy.
Never been
there. Part of this job is I'm getting leadership training, and every session blows my mind. I've been doing a lot of things right and I've had the right ideas, but I've not necessarily had the right tools to implement them, or that third-party advice to allow you to overcome frustration and friction. When you tell someone, you give them a task and say, can you take care of this? And then for whatever reason, it doesn't get done the way you want it to. And you either sit with it or you try and address it. Either way, you've got this kind of like friction, this feeling inside you, like you just want to grab it back and do it yourself, or I'm
the worst for that.
Or maybe you're thinking hateful
you worse
things.
for many things.
But it gets to the point where there's certain people, this is why I want a really good full-time designer to come in, because it gets to the point with some things with freelancers where I'll be like, I ain't giving you that, I'll just do it.
Yeah.
And then that's killing the business growth.
Yeah, another mistake that I made on that front was hiring juniors.
Yeah.
And you have to put a minimum of 3 to 6 months of serious investment into them before they even start to earn the keep for what you're paying them at that given time. And sorry for anyone that's new out there to say that, but if you are a junior, if I was you, I would only consider jumping into a job if you've got a really talented senior above you and it's not the boss of the company, because it's a fact of life. You've got to put the time in the trenches before you're able to realistically take things off business owners' hands in the way that they want it. So if you're a business owner, just pony up and get someone who's going to be worth your while. And if it turns out after a couple of months that it's not going the way that you wanted, they're not taking things off your plate, they're causing more problems, move on to the next person. Be pretty brutal. Like I say, spell out the rules of the game so they know what they're getting into. You want someone that's a little bit entrepreneurial for your first people, someone that's going to take over a department just like I've done. And they're going to be coming to you saying, have you thought about this? Well, yes, a little bit, but never got around to it. Or no, actually, I've never thought of that. That's amazing. That's what you want when you're first hiring. That frees up your time so that you can have the time to lead, so that you can have the time to think about the future of the company and the direction it's going to go in. Unfortunately, if you hire juniors first, you end up just spinning your wheels a lot. That's my opinion.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I think it has a lot of sense in what you say.
What kind of pieces of advice would you leave us with? So obviously we can talk about risk management. If you can give us, just a few tips to leave us. So risk management, leadership, and general growth.
Knowing your field, I guess. So I guess this part where you switch on kitchens help you a lot. Find the direction, what you're doing the best.
It definitely helped me personally, but there are some agencies out there very aspirational and they deal with anyone and everyone. There's 1,000 ways to skin a cat, right? There's no right way, there's no wrong way. It's just what's the right way for you. The more you can understand what you would like to be a part of, providing the market says, yes, we want that too, then that's what you should strive for. And that's what you should throw everything behind. But be intentional with it. I would encourage everyone to think big. Don't play it small. There's no point. There's very little point in playing it small. It's just stressful. And you could literally be using your same life energy to think bigger and achieve more. And the only thing that's kind of stopping you is mindset. And I do genuinely believe that as well. Now I see a lot of people in jobs. I come across a lot of people in jobs who are unhappy. And it's like, I know it's easy to say, but just take some responsibility and change. That's probably going to be controversial because the first thing that happens there is people get defensive. But it's like, are you just going to sit there and take what's going on a daily basis for the rest of your life? It's like being with an abusive partner sometimes, right? Change. Everyone's capable of it. You just have to believe it and do it.
So risk mitigation and leadership.
Right.
Just some parting thoughts on those.
As you start to earn more, it's so easy to spend more. And I mean, it's obvious, right? But at one point I had like $3,500 worth a month of software subscriptions. Like, women, a lot of women like to buy shoes and handbags. I like to buy software subscriptions. And over half of it just wasn't needed in any way, shape, or form. Over half of it probably wasn't even used. It just seemed like a good deal. So be very, very careful. Like, being lean is actually great. It is actually a bit of a superpower. And even now we've been through all of this loss in terms of client base. We chopped everything back to the absolute bare minimum. And actually the agency's in a really strong place. It's probably doing more than most agencies I know and taking a bare minimum to run. So it's great. Being lean is a superpower, but also don't be afraid to spend when the time's right or when it feels right. And yeah, you'll learn some expensive lessons.
Okay.
But just to cap that off, the expectations still have to be in place. If they're not delivering what you want, you need to do the best thing for both of you. It's not you, it's me.
It's not me, it's you.
I think
Goodbye.
the same question is: would you achieve your tasks on the new job if you don't have this background of running an agency for many years and your own business?
No,
so definitely was valuable for you.
Massively valuable. If I would have carried on down the career path that I was going and not started my own business, I don't like to think about the kind of person that I'd be today. I'd be perfectly nice and I'd have decent ethics and, someone that a girl could take home to their parents and, whatever.
Like meet Bjorn, the fisherman from Grimsby.
But I feel like I've acquired so much knowledge, so much value. I really enjoy the person that I've become, and it wouldn't have happened if I hadn't have put myself through that grinder and that ringer of going through the business world and meeting all of the amazing, inspirational people in the business world.
I'm proud to know you, Bjorn.
Oh.
You've been really helpful to me. So yeah, thanks.
That's why we start our podcast.
It is.
To meet amazing people.
We've come full circle. So
yeah, thanks for being our guest today.
Thanks for having me. It's been awesome.
Pub time.
So yeah, please subscribe to our channel. Put the like button if you like this video. Leave the comment if you have experience to transferring from the business and getting full-time job. And we see you next week.